Well, it looks like it's time for one of my favorite pastimes, and that is, of course, just re listening to some of my favorite tracks from Epic. Why is that like one of my favorite sections? It almost reminds me of something else. Huh. I wonder what that thing could be, though. Huh. Those sound very inspired for some reason. I know Jorge has said that Kingdom Hearts was a big influence from over there, but surely that should only be the other instance, right? I wonder what other people are saying about that.
Guys, look at this.
Kingdom Hearts is a massive, if not the largest inspiration for me for music.
Pause. Traverse Town, Kingdom Hearts 1. I would take the suffering from you. Was this an accident?
Wait, really? Is that really true?
Kind of float the whole time.
Take the suffering from you.
Ah, I wonder what other influences have been used. This almost sounds to me like a lot of these inspirations have been using from concepts of sampling and other techniques for orchestral works in order to put things together. But, that's very fascinating that two things from the same franchise kind of came forward from there, which is super cool that one of my favorite franchises is used as a huge influence from there. But let's rewind a little bit. What is sampling exactly? Sampling actually has a very long, drawn out history with things. When we talk about the concept of sampling, in music, it refers to the practice of taking a portion of a recording and reusing it or repositioning it into a different musical composition for a different purpose. The techniques normally play a crucial role in the evolution of most of our modern music, and a lot of modern artists end up using this as a way to end up bringing more ideas forward. But this concept has been used for years and years and centuries, and it's cool to really see that it is still kind of being used to influence other things, because typically video game music is not something that is used to inspire a musical, so it's exciting. But this can be tracked all the way back to the 1940s and 1950s with a type of music called musique concrète, which is an experimental form of music in which composers manipulated recording sounds using tape machines. Sampling as we know it didn't begun to take shape until the 1960s and 70s, when artists and producers started using analog technology to loop and edit segments of existing recordings. Typically, this is done with Jamaican dub music, which involved remixing and modifying the instrumental tracks, and was an early precursor to a lot of modern sampling techniques that many composers would even use today. In the late 70s and 80s, hip hop, which is what this really sampling concept started from, two particular pioneers called Grandmaster Flash and DJ Kool Herc used turntables to loop drum beats from funk and soul records, laying the foundation for rap music. One of the most famous early samples came from the piece called from the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight in 1979, which ended up using the bass line from Chick's Good Times to create one of the hip hop's very first mainstream hits.
Groove, and my friends are gonna try to move your feet. You see, I am Wonder Mike, and I like to say hello. Up to the black, to the white, the red, and the brown, and the purple, and yellow. But first, I gotta bang, bang, the boogie to the boogie. Say up, jump the boogie to the bang, bang, boogie. Let's rock.
You can hear that underlying bass tone is used, or bass line is used within Rapper's Delight and Good Times, and it ended up creating a whole new music genre from this. So this has been done way before this. The introduction of digital samplers in the 80s, such as the Fairlight CMI and the Akai MPC series, revolutionized music production, making it easier for artists to incorporate samples into their work. The era saw iconic albums like the Beastie Boys' Paul Boutique and Public Enemy's It Takes a Nation of a Million to Hold Us Back, both of which heavily relied on layer samples. However, sampling isn't just included to most popular music during that time. Film scores also have had a huge and great influence using this style of sampling. John Williams' Hedwig's theme from Harry Potter draws clear inspiration from Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake, particularly in its haunting waltz-like melody. To think that a famous composer like John Williams took a lot of inspiration from something from the 1800s and put it into one of the most recognizable themes that he would ever create is just a perfect example of stuff that bridges the gaps between century-old orchestration and even film scoring. As sampling continued to evolve in the 2000s and beyond, influencing artists across multiple different genres, a lot of famous names even nowadays continue to use sampling even to today. Probably one of the biggest and most recognizable examples is in Kanye's West Stronger, used and sampled Daft Punk's Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger that helped to blend hip-hop and EDM music to create this more futuristic anthem.
Work it, make it, do it, makes us harder, better, faster, stronger. Harder, better, faster, stronger.
Sampling still to this day remains a vital creative force, shaping music production and inspiring a lot of new generations of artists, such as in our lovely epic pieces that we're all really obsessed with still at this point. So I figured, why not take a look at some examples besides, Thunderbringer and Suffering that might end up using these same kind of concepts. Now, keep in mind that all of this is more or less just similarities and inspirations that I've noticed. It's a lot of what musicians have done over the years, and I just found it really cool that there was another musical that was based around video game OSTs more than anything else. So I decided to scour and look and look. Now with those first two examples, Thunderbringer and Suffering, at least the Thunderbringer thing had a very decent theory to it, ending with an arc of Odysseus losing all of his crew, while Kingdom Hearts is kind of that exact opposite thing of a new journey starting out, which if you've not seen that video explaining about how Dearly Beloved kind of works, make sure to end up watching it at some point, because that will put a little bit more thoughts onto how this theory kind of works forward. But having that single isolated piano for being just the one person left or the one person starting out, it kind of makes a really cool kind of contrast of going back and forth with how a lot of these concepts work, and it's cool. Suffering kind of came as a surprise from there, since considering Traverse Town has such a different kind of feeling and philosophy towards everything else. For those not familiar with Kingdom Hearts, Traverse Town is like the central hub area where all the Lost Worlds go. Well, if you think of it that way, even if the sirens were trying to lure Odysseus back to Penelope, maybe that was kind of the same thing, trying to have that yearning of going home. Hence the da 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 da. Obviously, that's at least kind of the melody line for there, but it's kind of cool to end up bridging that gap over. But there are two other examples that I actually found that kind of help out a little bit, and they appear in quite a few things. First of all, I feel, and again, this is doing after my little research and listening to things, that Legendary might have another inspiration through another pretty popular indie-made RPG at that point. So, the beginning of Legendary, with its main theme, ends up kind of bridging that gap. As we know, this is kind of the beginning of the introduction to, I'm going to say it wrong, Telemachus, fuck, hold on, I gotta see the pronunciation again. No, what is it? Oh, you can keep this in if you want. This is gonna be terrible. Hold on. I gotta look this up. Oh my god. Telemachus. No. Telemachus. Not Telecachus. Like I've always been doing. Telemachus. Probably still said it wrong. Sorry. You can put all my attempts in there if you want. Blah, 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 blah. Hate this. Hate that I can never pronounce things. We know as Legendary being the introduction to Telemachus's theme to start out with and kind of having that thing, but also in another video game, that whole concept of bringing an old friend back, which again, exact opposite, kind of like what happened with Thunderbringer, is used in a lovely little indie game called Undertale, especially when it comes to his theme. Listen to the similarities between them. It seems to be using that same kind of da 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 da. Obviously, it's different enough, so it shifts through everything, but you have the introduction of a new character or the reintroduction of Azrael in the case of his theme from there. So they're kind of being used as kind of an intersection way to work through both melody lines. And his theme is used everywhere within Undertale whenever it has to do with an inverse version of it being Flowey or any of the Azrael Dreamer situations with going into the boss fights. So it's the theme of Azrael, but being kind of using that as an influence to push over Telemachus's theme is just amazing. And it's kind of a cool little neat quirk thing there. So yeah, it might not just be Undertale, but and again, Jorge has said in the past that a lot of music from video games has inspired him to write a lot of the themes and characteristics we've had. But there's one like even cooler one that I have seen like even further into this that has appeared multiple times in the motifs that typically has to do with the chanting of boss battles. As we know, that happens quite a bit with this happens quite a bit with Polyphemus, Odysseus, Poseidon, oh my gosh, so many others, but here's kind of the one that really hit me most, which was the most recent one that I reacted to, Odysseus. So just listen to it at first. Which we also figured out after a while was the same motif that we heard near the end of No Longer You. Many people have spliced those two things together to kind of go one right after another there, which has been amazing. But all of that also sounds very similar to something done in a Kingdom Hearts game. Once again, there is this lovely little soundtrack called Fate of the Unknown that was used in a lot of the Kingdom Hearts 2.5 collection there. I think it originally appeared in Birth by Sleep and then appeared in certain boss fights after that. But this is how this starts, and tell me if you notice anything that might sound a little similar. Again, these could all just be coincidences here, but considering Jorge's love for story-based Kingdom Hearts / RPGs, I think quite a bit of the soundtrack from Kingdom Hearts and Undertale might have been used to influence some of the songs that we've heard. In fact, there is even another one that I can think of that might be a little bit more of a stretch. What about if we look at the same concept with ruthlessness? As I believe there might be another Kingdom Hearts thing we can find within there. Did you hear that piano riff in the beginning of Ruthlessness? That has reminded me of another little riff that comes again with more boss battle music in Kingdom Hearts. In the 13th struggle, which is pretty much the boss fight music for the Organization 13th, we have the same kind of like driving piano part that we heard right at the end of there, and it just feels like it kind of bridges the gap between both of these, or at least we can see the influences of what video game OSTs might have worked for the creating of Epic. Again, these are just thoughts and theories and ideas that I've had based on one TikTok that I saw, because of course that's where all of our ideas and thoughts are from. I know there are plenty of other influences over there, and if you want to see more, I can obviously make it even more and search more, but I felt that these kind of give a generally good idea of some of the ideas that Jorge may have used for his music. Artists have been doing sampling and being influenced by other artists for centuries. And it's so enlightening, and I'm very glad to see that it is still being used in other forms of media, especially with something that was entirely based off the internet being created into a musical concept album. So if we could do that, who knows what other genres or things might have been influenced by others. It's just cool to see. If you can think of any other examples, by all means put them in the comments. Let's have some discussions about this. If you want me to point out a couple more musical examples, I can also do that too. But as always, love having musical conversations with everybody. If you want to see anything else, please put it in the comments below. Like, subscribe, comment, do your thing, and thank you for listening to me ramble on about the connection between video games and Epic the Musical. Until next time, guys, thank you, and see you later. Bye!